The fallout from the Vanity Fair profile of the Trump cabinet last week just took a new and surprising turn as the photographer for the photo shoot, Christopher Anderson, just gave the Christmas gift of spilled tea, the behind-the-scenes drama that transpired while trying to photograph the cabinet officials. Anyone needing a giggle to kick off Christmas Eve? You just found it. Stick around. Merry Christmas Eve to all of you, and welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. And before I begin, I have to say thank you to all of you again who messaged me on social media or left comments and well wishes to me and my family this holiday. Mom said she would be willing to share her Christmas cookie recipes on camera anytime, and Grandma continues to be overwhelmed by the compliments about a certain grandchild of hers and the curio cabinet behind me. Yes, she did collect all of those treasures herself, from her wedding cake topper to Grandpa, may he rest in peace, to the authentic Waterford crystal from Ireland. Oh, and my dad, not to be totally left out, also says happy holidays. He offered to make cookies with Mom on camera, but settled for decorating them with my nieces instead. What can you do? But enough about the Reddish holiday extravaganza. Let's get to some White House drama, shall we? As you probably know, last week writer Chris Whipple did a story on the Trump cabinet that met with wide ridicule, not for Whipple's writing, but for remarks the cabinet, in particular White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, made about Trump and his drooling goons. Here's a little recap.
The most powerful person in Trump's White House, that's what the Vanity Fair, I should say, is calling White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles this morning in a brand new piece spotlighting President Trump's most inner circle. Some of the comments coming out of that two-part article include these from the first female Chief of Staff. In it, she says President Trump has a, quote, alcoholic's personality. She also seems to take a jab at Vice President J.D. Vance's shift from a, quote, never Trumper to a MAGA acolyte, calling it sort of political. For more on this explosive new piece, let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Zhang. Weijia, what more are we learning from these two articles?
So this was a very candid interview by the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, and it's notable because she typically does not do interviews. She really likes to stay in the background. She does not like to be the center of attention. In fact, even when President Trump won on election night, she was a bit hesitant to join him on stage. So it is certainly a big deal that she gave such an extensive interview to Vanity Fair. And what you already mentioned is one of the top lines, what she said about the Vice President J.D. Vance, calling him a conspiracy theorist for about a decade, and pointing out that, you know, he was a never Trumper and became MAGA because of his own political ambitions, according to Wiles. But there's so much more about this, including how she framed her reaction to Elon Musk and Doge dismantling USAID, which of course was a tremendous aid program for the international community. She said she was initially aghast by it, and she couldn't believe it was happening because this agency historically had done such good and important work.
Oh, and the fallout got so much more embarrassing. Stay tuned. At this point, we should note that the White House response has been a little weird to the Vanity Fair article. Go figure. Cabinet members complain about their photographs, while Wiles herself says her comments were taken out of context. Sure, Susie. And just when it looked like the story had blown over, a new bomb just dropped, as the photographer from the story, Christopher Anderson, reveals what he witnessed on the day of the photo shoot. Check this out. Vanity Fair, who else, just ran a rare interview with Anderson. In it, he reveals that the cabinet fussed over his photographs quite a bit during the photo shoot, with Susie Wiles herself particularly defensive about how she would be filmed. If only she paid as much attention to what she said in the piece. But never mind. Anderson also reveals that while attempting to shoot the entire cabinet, they all got called into a Situation Room meeting because, get this, Lauren Boebert agreed to support the Congressional Epstein Files discharge petition. Boebert herself was called to the Situation Room for the cabinet to pressure her to change her vote. And for the record, it did not work. Anderson further reveals that Stephen Miller was the most pestering during the shoot, demanding to know every detail about his lighting, why Anderson decided to use film instead of digital, how his posture looked, and more. Anderson tells of a wacky exchange between he and the cabinet Nosferatu, with Miller approaching him after the shoot. Anderson says, quote, At the end of the session, he comes up to me to say goodbye, and he says, "You know, you have a lot of power in the discretion you use to be kind to people," meaning kind to people in my pictures. And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, you know, you do too." Close quote. Anderson also sat Miller in the Roosevelt Room under a painting of Native Americans as an ironic juxtaposition, something Miller didn't actually pick up on. Anderson also revealed that J.D. Vance jokingly offered him $1,000 to make Marco Rubio look worse than him. The rest of the cabinet was less than amused. Oh, and maybe it's also worth mentioning that yes, those were injection marks in Caroline Leavitt's lips. Anderson said he doesn't censor his photographs because he doesn't pass judgment on his subjects. Ho ho ho. So, no doubt the cabinet Christmas party is going to be a bit awkward this afternoon. I'd say you can count on Pete Hegseth getting drunk on eggnog and hitting on Caroline Leavitt. J.D. Vance will refuse to leave the couch, as usual. Stephen Miller will accuse illegal immigrants of coming down the chimney on Christmas Eve. And Trump will tell all of his cabinet how much he loves dogs. Lap dogs. Before he falls asleep on the couch next to Vance. And now, if you will excuse me, I have some last-minute wrapping to do of my own. Happy holidays. This is Occupy Democrats.